Welcome back, it's Araminta here. So, where did we leave off? Well, December came around and Skye and I celebrated our Christmas and New Year's on completely opposite sides of the world, but little did we know we were going to become quite adept at this. And then after a very lovely end to 2025, it was time to hit the new year running. 2026, it was going to be a big year for us. So, our goals for the next couple of months were clear. We needed to finalise our name, register our business, design our first pieces, make and test a sample, find a London manufacturer, and most importantly, figure out how to source dead stock fabrics. We had our work cut out for us. So I was in China. I had just settled into Shanghai, and I was there on my own, which I think is the first time I've really ever had to learn how to be by myself properly. It definitely was not easy, but I learned a lot. And I explored as much of that city as I could possibly fit into my days. Shanghai is an incredible city. It's just full of color and people and fashion. And it's also filled with a lot of independent cafes and bars, each with so much originality and attention to detail. It was an incredibly inspiring place to be whilst we were working on this business. So the format of my days would be I spent my mornings at language school, and then in the afternoons I would find myself wandering around the city in search of more coffee shops. What I loved most of all about wandering around Shanghai were the little seating areas outside almost every cafe and bar. Each one was completely different and individual, and they made the city feel so full of character. And despite being on the other side of the world, the business was constantly on my mind. My goal this week is to dedicate myself to Skye and I's future company, which is going to happen. So I clearly had no shortage of optimism. So then in the evenings, I would sit in my local cafe, brainstorming and, you guessed it, writing lists. I built out our notion so that we finally had somewhere to store all of our ideas. And all in all, it was a beautiful, fun and very inspiring 2 months, full of colour and new experiences.
After getting back to London from New Zealand, whilst Minty was celebrating the Chinese New Year, I was solving all my problems by going to Hokkaido, the North Island of Japan, for a ski season. Within about 2 weeks, I had postponed my masters for a year, found a job, booked a flight and was on my way. I spent my days skiing, my evenings working in a pizza place, and my nights out meeting people from all over the world, all while getting Araminta Skye on the road. I remember making calls to dead stock suppliers from the floor of my room. And then when I inevitably got injured, I spent my days researching and designing initial shapes and styles of our suits. After the snow season ended, I travelled from the top of Japan all the way to the bottom. Did Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, Ishigaki. The whole country was full of fabulous design. Everywhere you looked, there was something interesting or inspiring. I really fell in love with Japan and felt so inspired to kind of create things and design things for myself. Minty and I obviously weren't together, but we were communicating constantly. Everything became research. We were collecting and sharing references, photos of shop windows, colour combinations, a nice vintage jacket, of compiling this world of Araminta Skye. What kind of kept us together and kept us grounded throughout these kind of two very different adventures that we were on was our parasocial relationship, a constant communication of photos, text, voice notes, little videos, the occasional organised call. We had a name we weren't totally sure about, a million WhatsApp texts, a shared Notion page, and a very vague but serious drive that we were going to make beautiful, sustainable, wearable suits. So from opposite sides of Asia, we started building our first collection. So let's see how those goals went. Around this time, we were trying to decide what the brand was called. We tried some old English words, but they sounded weird, and then we started combining our names together. We tried Minty and Skye, Skye and Araminta, Minty Michaelis, but then we kind of landed on Araminta Skye because we felt that it sounded like a character that we were trying to dress. Once we had our name, we could have a domain, we could make email addresses, and then the final piece of the administrative puzzle, registering as a company. I remember being stood on the side of a snowy platform in Japan when Minty sent through the documents, and it kind of felt like it was all becoming real.
Now I'm heading to Cool Skye and try and design clothes. At the beginning, as you can see, our mood board was huge. We had all sorts of old designers tailoring, old editorials, lots of different navies, blues, vintage trousers, lots of different cuffs, button ideas, embroidery. Skye even found some beautiful shell patterns from some part of the ocean somewhere. Honestly, we had so many ideas. So the next job was not to find more inspiration, it was to cut down and really just lock down the things that we felt most inspired by and that we wanted to move forward with. So we knew we didn't want to launch with lots of random pieces. This first collection was going to be small but strong. A jacket, matching trousers, a skirt, a shirt and a top. Pieces that would work together but also stand well on their own. So using a combination of Procreate and any piece of paper that we could get our hands on.
We would draw clothing and then build on each other's ideas, sending them back and forth until images that we could actually work with started to form. By the end of this stage, the first collection was no longer just a mood board. The shapes were almost there, with a clear jacket direction, a clear idea of what bottoms we wanted, the shirts and tops that were going to make sense with the suits, and the whole collection was beginning to feel like a kind of wardrobe. It was still very early and the shapes were definitely not perfect. We knew that what we had designed was going to change once we got into like proper pattern cutting and kind of making first samples. But we had kind of the ideas of our designs, maybe like 90% there. And that was a really big shift because suddenly we were not just imagining clothes anymore, we knew what we were going to be making. And we had something that we could actually take to our manufacturer.
I've far out of the city as I've been. I'm going to the Southburn fabric market to see if I can find any nice tailors. Guarantee they will not speak a lick of English, so this is going to be very, very interesting. That was unbelievably awesome. It's just this huge shopping complex full of tailors just sharing their wares. I got caught by these blue suits, obviously, so I went in and was looking at them, and then the lady was just so nice and she let me speak my very splintered Chinese. So this is the suit I picked up today. It is good to see it in the flesh, so me and Skye can figure out what we like, what we don't like. Okay, I've been playing around. So obviously this is what it's meant to be. It can go like that, that's so smart. So it can go like that with 2 buttons done up and 2 undone. Okay, I've just tried to tuck my top away. I mean, something to play around with. Anyway, I think this has legs.
The next big thing was production. We knew from the start that we wanted to produce in London. That was our non-negotiable. We wanted to be physically close to the process so that we could build up an in-person relationship with our suppliers, but also because the whole brand is about clothes with care and detail. We didn't just want to send a tech pack into the void and hope for the best. So we started emailing London-based manufacturers and going through trade fair exhibitors, trying to work out who would take us seriously as 2 girls who didn't even have a finished collection yet. In my 3rd year of uni, whilst writing my dissertation, I was lucky enough to interview the CEO of a London-based manufacturer who wanted to reignite the UK production industry whilst upskilling workers to do so. This was one of the suppliers that we reached out to. And as there was already a bit of a relationship there and their kind of environmental and social sustainability values aligned with our own, we felt that we'd found a match for Araminta Skye's supplier.
So the next thing that we had to figure out was fabric. From the beginning, we knew that we wanted to use dead stock, partly because it made sense sustainably, but also because it just felt a lot more exciting than choosing fabric from a normal catalogue, due to the fact that it's fabric that already exists. A lot of the times just sitting unused in the back of a factory, and suddenly it gets this opportunity to have a second life. And that really suited the way that we've always thought about clothes. We both love vintage, we love pieces that feel individual, and dead stock has that same feeling. So at first, this sounded relatively straightforward. We'd find beautiful existing fabric, turn them into suits, and everyone would be happy. But then we realised dead stock is great, sustainably speaking, but it is also quite inconvenient, because if you find something amazing, that might be it. There might only be 20 metres of that fabric. If you wait too long, someone else could buy it. This was actually a pretty big shift for us. It meant that the collection couldn't be planned in a completely conventional and rigid way. We had the designs in mind, but the fabric was going to have to become a bigger part of the design process. And because we were making tailoring, that mattered even more, obviously. The suit fabric has to behave properly, and it has to hold shape and be able to move well, sit well, dance well. So we started putting together mood boards of what we wanted, and we found some really great dead stock suppliers based in Italy. Dead stock stopped just being part of our sustainability mission, and it became part of the whole way that the brand was going to work. the fabric would lead, the shapes would return, and the drops would stay limited. So you might see the same Araminta Skye jacket shape again and again, but never in exactly the same fabric. And hopefully that means that the clothes that we make feel like those vintage pieces you find that you wear again and again, and it becomes part of your life.
By the end of February, we had both explored two previously unexplored places. Yeah, why do I get thrown up? But most importantly, we had a company name, an idea of our first pieces, and the start of a relationship with our manufacturers and suppliers.
So we had gone from one day we should make suits to, okay, we're actually doing this. And next time, Skye's in Thailand, I'm back in London, and we have our first proper factory meeting. So see you then.
Loads of ways.
Yeah.